blockchain technology involve risk, terms, and conditions apply. Yeah, let's talk about maybe, I think it was point number 3 that you mentioned around the decision not to have an ecosystem pre-deposit campaign. This has been something that's very popular to basically juice the TVL numbers so that when, upon launch, you can have, I think some people have gotten to 3, 4, 5 billion in TVL very, very quickly. Why did you guys not do this?
There are probably at least 2 main reasons. The first one is because I think that the Monad ecosystem needs to earn TVL over time from end user demand. So TVL growth is really meaningful only when it is driven by organic demand. And the reality of Monad is that as a very high performance blockchain where people can make markets on order book exchanges and quote very precisely around whatever fair value is. They actually don't need a lot of capital in order to do that. So therefore, to just flood the ecosystem with a ton of TVL for no reason without it serving a useful purpose to end users is kind of trying to actually the same thing, like trying to fight against the current. Like the current should be going in the direction of what happens. So that's sort of the first reason. And then I think the second reason is that for a lot of early ecosystems, this TVL number is subsidized by token emissions. And it's sort of borrowing from the future to get an outcome right now that is maybe important from a marketing perspective, important from a talking point, but actually is not really useful for longer term growth. And for Monad, I think the things that people are talking about are the performance of the blockchain and the decentralization, the low hardware requirements, like the seamless user experience, seamless developer experience. Those are already like things that I think attract people, and it's not necessary to sort of like have this like one headline that is ultimately transient.
Yeah. There was a tweet from, I think his name is Abdul at Monad. I think maybe he's your head of DeFi or BD or something like that. And
yeah, head of DeFi.
He had a line that said, "Too much TVL is a liability on a new chain." Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, I think it's a couple of things. First of all, in my view, when users are using a new technology, they're inherently taking risk in order to do so. The technology is less battle tested. Of course, with Monad, we've been working on Monad for a long time. We've built a ton of testing. We've run test nets for a long time, but it is a new mainnet network, and real money is at stake for the first time. So users should demand a higher risk premium in order to bridge assets over. Of course, with really well-known, trusted integrators like Circle or USDT Zero or things like that, maybe they feel more assured, but it's still like there's a risk premium, and that is, again, it's like a liability from the perspective of needing to compensate users for that additional risk that they're taking. And then also it ends up being the kind of thing where a lot of TVL might be accumulated initially, but then over time, as those incentives disappear, the flow is the other way. And that is a very negative headline for every project when that happens. Right. And there's screenshots that are shared on Twitter of largest outflows are from Monad, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And that's it's a liability there too.
Keone, how much do you guys think talk internally about like this is what the perception will be on crypto Twitter? Like, oh, if we do this, then we'll see there'll be a screenshot of outflows. Because I know the exact chart you're talking about. It's the outflows chart. But
I think that it's good to have awareness of how. I think it's good to have awareness that there is accountability in crypto, and a lot of the accountability is really at the social layer. I think that my job is not to optimize for what crypto Twitter is saying on a given day. My job is to help the growth and decentralization of the ecosystem in the long term. And sometimes that involves making decisions for the foundation that are maybe take short-term pain, but for longer-term gain. I think that it's hard to please everyone. And I think, the airdrop is like any project does an airdrop. Like there's going to be sort of the different waves of people that are mad. It's like first it's people that were running industrial farms and like didn't get anything. And then and they're just like kind of almost botting the outrage.
Yeah.
And then it could be like people who got something but then are jealous that someone else that they feel did less is getting more the same or more. And it's just at the end of the day, like we have to be aware of that and always have a mental model of like whether we believe we're doing the right thing and just do the right thing and know that not everyone will always be happy. However, also people I do think on crypto Twitter are generally driven by a semblance of truth. And when someone is writing FUD that clearly does not have a basis in truth, while that may get a lot of likes, it won't necessarily like influence the opinion of people that are actually thinking critically.
Yeah. Before getting into the airdrop, maybe a little more on the pre-deposit campaign or the decision not to do it. What kind of incentives do you have any incentives running?
The Monad Foundation is providing support for ecosystem projects through a campaign called Monad Momentum, which is really about user acquisition.
Okay.
So instead of teams having their KPI and the thing that they're using incentives for as TVL or volume, as a general statement, I think that it's more valuable for people to focus on attracting new users to the application that they're building, as well as more generally to Monad, even more generally to crypto.
Yeah.
And the way to do that is to apply more traditional like Web 2 thinking to user acquisition, like knowing what is my cost of acquiring one user? What's the long-term value of that user? What's my monthly retention rate?
Hacking
How do
LTV. Yeah. What crazy concepts, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's interesting. I really liked Abdul's tweet. Just about it's really just saying long-term games with long-term people and don't try to game the system because it usually doesn't end up well. So maybe we can talk about the airdrop and the token sale on Coinbase. What using the airdrop first, what decisions did you guys make with the airdrop that were tough? And like how did you guys structure that and what were maybe the learnings there?
I think I can say this without offending anyone. At the end of the day, the airdrop is okay. So here's my mental model of how airdrops should work, or maybe like what role they're playing. I think that one reason for an airdrop is to acknowledge the contributions of core community members that have contributed to the success of the project up to now and who we believe will be really influential and important in the future. That would be, I'll call it category A. And then category B is like a broader set of people that are very involved in crypto, that are using blockchains, that are DeFi power users, that are holding NFTs, that are important to the social layer, and giving them a stake in the future network as a an olive branch and as a way to welcome them to the new network and show them that they have a stake and get them excited. So that would be sort of the second one. Maybe, and I would add also to that, acknowledging contributions that have happened in the past. For example, in the Monad airdrop, we included Spearbit auditors and our Cantina auditors and SEAL 911 members and Protocol Guild contributors and people that are working on educational initiatives like Rare Skills and SheFi. So anyway, the point is like that's category B. And then I think category C is like the much larger set of people, like the most outermost concentric circle. And that's just people who are crypto curious, people who like trade on Coinbase or another exchange, but maybe haven't really been doing a lot of stuff on chain. And I think the ideal distribution strategy would involve all of those people. And it's really hard to design a single system that could involve all of those people. Therefore, you need actually multiple different kinds of initiatives in order to include all of them.
Why even do an airdrop in the first place, Keone? Like, why is that the right thing to do, to give out free money for, what the data shows a lot of people just dump the airdrop. So why even do it in the first place?
Yeah, that's I guess what I was getting at when I said I can say this without making people mad. I think that's correct, that the reality is that there are a lot of people that receive an airdrop and are so conditioned to thinking that day one of the the public trading of that token is like the highest price that token will ever be, and therefore the optimal thing to do is just to sell. Of course, that is all relative to everything is relative, and it depends on a lot of other things, but that's a lot of mentality people are hardwired to have. And then I think also maybe an element is that for people that really feel like they've earned the airdrop, people that have been contributing a lot, that probably affects their psychology as well about whether they want to hold. I think that people might, really core community members might sell their airdrop, but still may be very involved in the community going forward as well. And that's totally fine too. Like, I cannot judge. Everyone has different personal circumstances as well. But I do think that, a lot of the feedback that I got, or that our team got going into this whole process, was totally across the board. Like, some people saying, don't do any airdrop at all. Everyone will just sell it. It's just bad for like the people that are stakeholders in the project. And I had other people saying like, you should do a massive airdrop. And I think at the end of the day, the right thing is to find what feels fair, and also what optimizes for the success of the ecosystem and the project in the longer term. For us, that was finding a distribution of over 10% in aggregate coming from the sum of the airdrop plus the Coinbase token sale.
This episode is brought to you by Zashi Wallet, your gateway to buying, storing, and spending encrypted agents or Ashina. OMP apply. Let's talk about the Coinbase token sale. Why was that a good idea to do? You talk a couple times, Keone, about like expanding the distribution of token holders, and I'm assuming that was a strategy internally, because you've mentioned it a few times, and Coinbase was maybe a how in terms of how to get to that objective. But yeah, dig into why you guys decide. I mean, this was a test run, right? Because it was the first time, Coinbase had just acquired Kobe's platform, Echo, and you guys were, I think, the first protocol to use that for token sale. Tell us about that decision.
Yeah, the ultimate thinking is that it's really important to expand beyond the crypto Twitter bubble, and instead of just including the same so as I was saying before, like, I think that there are at least three different distinct stakeholder groups, A, B, and C, where group B is like people that are very active on chain or very active on crypto Twitter. And then group C is just a much larger group of people. I think it is hard to incorporate both of those in a single initiative, like a single sale. And so you've seen some projects take the approach of targeting group B through a token sale. Legion in particular does that. And I think they're quite thoughtful about their scoring system for automatically building up a score of each person based on their on-chain activity and GitHub activity and so on. But it is still like, it's an algorithm, and it rewards participation in crypto, which is great, but it also excludes people that maybe haven't gotten there yet. And maybe you need two different tiers in order to be able to tackle that. In any event, in our case, in the case of Monad, group B was really targeted through airdrop, and group C was targeted through the token sale on Coinbase, which is more of a lower common denominator. Anyone with access to the Coinbase platform could participate.
What are the learnings having? I mean, you guys were the first company to use this new platform. Like, what went well and what didn't go well?
Actually, that reminded me of you were saying that this is right after Coinbase acquired Echo.
Right.
But one confusing thing is that this was not.
Oh, this was Sonar
done, or this was not done through Echo or Sonar. This is done through a separate platform that Coinbase had been developing.
Oh, I didn't realize that. I thought this was Echo. Oh, interesting. Oh, yeah. I thought, okay. Yeah. That makes sense. That makes sense.
No worries. Yeah. I mean, they could probably speak better to it, but I think the summary is that Echo is for early stage projects that are raising through an Echo group where there's a group leader that has to kind of sponsor it.
I forgot about that.
And then Sonar is like a KYC as a service platform where the project does the sale themselves and then just uses Sonar's KYC abilities to.
This was more like their native, maybe you could call it like a launch pad or something like that.
That's something like that. Like it is on their platform, it's on their website, it's in their mobile app.
Yeah.
It's users that have onboarded onto the Coinbase platform already.
Yeah. What do you think about the timing of all of this? Like when you timed the testnet, the airdrop, the token sale on Coinbase and mainnet, looking back, would you do all the timing the same?
I think I would, honestly. I mean, really the constraining factor is the mainnet. Like the mainnet is like driven by technology and driven by integrations and ecosystem readiness for day one of mainnet, but that is really like the starting line of a lot more to come. And everything else is kind of like, T minus X days for those different things.
Yeah. Why did you wait? I'm trying to think of a polite way to put this, but like, why did you wait so long to launch mainnet?
In my view, we were not waiting at all. This is simply like when the mainnet is ready to go live. There's certainly, I could tell you for like very affirmatively that we are not trying to time the market or time anything. Like it's literally the moment when the technology is ready to go.
Yeah. What were the last little things that you guys were working out?
Some things related to okay, so I guess maybe I'll tell you a little bit more about how to launch a mainnet. There's the sort of like full conformance to all of the standards that exist in the Ethereum space. So EVM compatibility, RPC compatibility, integrations with like a bunch of different third parties, exchanges, et cetera. There's like getting the code base audited, responding to like any issues that were identified there. Those are all like parts of the process. I think some of the later things that that the Category Labs team, which is the developer of this software that is now in mainnet, were the staking functionality and just things related to network robustness, especially given the need to support like tens of thousands of full nodes.
What was the toughest part about getting everything live, Keone?
It's not one big thing. It's really just a lot of small things. It's not on me. It's really just on our whole team to share the work. And I think that what I will say is that it's interesting that the crypto Twitter sentiment can be very volatile, and just staying focused on our North Star and our mission has really helped us to weather both moments where crypto Twitter was too euphoric about us, about Monad, and also moments where too bearish.
Yeah. What do you think the sentiment is today?
I think it's very strong right now. I think people are super excited about the Coinbase token sale. They're excited about the opportunity for a lot of people to like get a stake in the network and a stake in the project. I think people have been excited about the performance of the blockchain itself and the new technology, and just optimistic about the future.
Yeah, nice. So we had Kane on, I don't know, probably a month ago, and he was talking about the idea of angel investors and getting, the benefits of having a lot of investors invest in your thing. And he actually brought up Monad as an example, which is, you guys have a expansive cap table, and I think you guys raise capital really strategically, and because of that, I think that actually really helps with you have a lot of supporters, right? People are, maybe not going to speak poorly about you guys if they're investors in the project or something like that. How do you think maybe what advice would you give to other founders in terms of like what's went well there? And then, I mean, the downside of that is you have to coordinate with, I don't know how many people you have on the cap table, but it's probably one of the larger cap tables, I think, in crypto. How do you think about the pros and cons of it and what you guys did right versus wrong there?
I think that, well, first of all, the most important thing with respect to investors is just having people that will support um, the project and the team through ups and downs. That's just true no matter what.
Yeah.
I think we were very fortunate to have really supportive backers and people who are there for moral support. And there's like specific things that folks can help with, but a lot of it is also just like the mental reminder of I've got your back. I've got your back. Like, I'm rooting for you. I'm when you do something well, like, I'm congratulating you, and if something's not going well, like, you can come to me and talk. And that, I think, that makes a huge difference. So that's really the single most important thing.
Yeah.
I think that with respect to the approach of prior investments that we've raised, it is without getting into all the details, I do think that we've taken an approach of having a lot of smaller investors, and that in some ways can be reminiscent of, although at an earlier stage with more risk taken by each person, reminiscent of the approach to now with the public sale, and just a goal of having a lot of stakeholders. And at the end of the day, investors also are taking a lot of risk, and we understand that and appreciate that.
Mantle is launching the Global Hackathon 2025 to accelerate the future of real-world assets with a $150,000 prize pool backing from users. The world episode has the trading $1 billion for UNICEF episode term. I think Kevin did, intern did an amazing job, obviously, and got a lot of funding for new projects building on Monad. There are a lot of funds that were big supporters, like Dan and CMS and stuff like that. How do you think about what is the right strategy to support teams and applications building on Monad? There's kind of the one side of the spectrum would be king making. The other side of the spectrum would be like, don't give anybody any support. Most people have done something in the middle. How do you think about what the right strategy is there?
I think it's extremely important for Monad, and really for any crypto project. So this is like the advice I would give any team that is trying to grow an ecosystem. It's really important to be very neutral and to not pick favorites, to not king make, to not assume that we know, as the Monad Foundation, that we know who should be the winner, even if we have, as individuals, like a belief, because oftentimes we as human beings are wrong. It's really important. Like, I think one of the reasons why Ethereum has been really successful is because of that policy of credible neutrality and just openness to anyone competing. I think this is also, for me personally, driven by previous experience, because I started my career at a company called GetGo, which was one of the early movers in high frequency trading. It was a really interesting and fun company to work at when I joined in 2011. But they had a very like assignment driven approach to assigning different trading desks to different products, to different exchanges and different opportunities. And I saw the company go from being the number one player in the space to basically extinct in the course of just a couple of years, because the lack of competition and all the rules about who got to trade what resulted in other competitors catching up and eclipsing GetGo in the course of
Mm.
literally just like a couple of years. And the company that I joined afterward, called Jump Trading, that people in crypto know about a lot, already had the opposite policy, where there's a bunch of different trading teams, and um, it's just capitalistic. Like every
Yeah.
team can figure out what they want to trade, figure out how they want to spend their time, and may the best team
Mm.
win. And the result was that
Mm.
Jump Trading was really successful across a huge variety of different exchanges and asset classes and so on, because of that policy of competition and not king making. So I just think that it's really important that, it's the very early days in the Monad ecosystem. We don't know who will be successful. It could be, an incumbent that's, multi-chain and has a lot of experience. It could be the scrappy upstart team that's just hustling really hard and
Yeah.
innovating really fast. And I think for us at the Monad Foundation, our job is to elevate the baseline level of support and provide great tools and great support to all builders, and automate as much as we can, so we don't have like a million Telegram chats where we're helping people like in
Yeah.
like sort of like low level ways, but instead just cultivate an environment where people get access to a lot of resources and can help themselves.
How do you do that? Because if it was if this was Web 2 and it was a SaaS business, you would build what would be notably called like a customer success team or an account management team. And you'd have like, maybe one customer success rep per 8 companies or something. How have you guys set that up? How do you give the teams the support without having it just be super chaotic and everyone's pinging Kevin or something like that?
Well, part of it is through technology, actually. So we've built a platform called Delta V, which I like to describe as a social network for founders of sorts. So it's a website where builders can go create a profile, answer some questions about why they're building, what their vision is, share updates, and then we use a bunch of AI to like summarize updates and connect builders to investors. And also, we run some programs that people can access through this.
Huh. This is cool. So you guys built this all in house.
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. How much of this how much do you think of the tooling? How much do you think of tooling is built out already versus there's like opportunity to go build more tooling like this? Like, you mentioned like account abstraction or wallets. Like, I'm assuming when you guys founded Monad, there weren't things like, like Privy, for example. And now I see on Delta V, you're using Privy. How much did basically the tech stack change as you guys were building this?
Um, it definitely has improved quite a bit.
Yeah.
I agree with you, especially on the UX side and onboarding side. But at the same time, there's still like a lot of things that are the same. Like people still use Gnosis Safe as
Yeah.
the default multi-sig. The oracles, they still like generally use the same ones. So I think what Monad offers is the best of, the ability to for developers to benefit from new improvements to the Ethereum ecosystem and new infrastructure, but also to just be like, a brain dead, or sorry, like to be able to integrate and use everything without having to think twice.
Giovanni, what would you say to people who say, why do we need another chain?
I'm just reminded of this meme that Frankie from Paradigm posted recently. It's the mid curve meme, with the like 70 IQ, 100 IQ, and
Yeah.
130 IQ personas. And the guy in the middle at the 100 IQ is saying, why do we need XYZ? Like all these other ones they failed before, like failed to achieve meaningful adoption, failed to move the needle. And the 70 IQ person and the 130 IQ person are saying, just do the thing well. So I do just fundamentally believe that execution is everything. I think our team is amazing. Our team has shipped great initiatives, great products on very short timelines, and is moving the space forward. And the only thing that I can say is, so far, the Monad team has executed well and delivered a really high quality product. And that ultimately opens up the space of design for
Hmm.
any builder that's taking advantage of decentralized Rails.
Hmm. Who do you think ends up being a bigger competitor? Someone like maybe a crypto native player like Solana, or one of these public chain, or I don't know, corporate chain. I don't know. Let's use Tempo as an example. Like, who do you think more about, Tempo or Solana?
I think that big companies, like existing Web2 enterprises, getting involved in the crypto space has a long history of, um, when an initiative is done without collaboration with very crypto native companies, it's very difficult for them to really find success, because
Yeah.
there's a lot of sort of background knowledge that you need to have. It also just takes a long time. Like, there's a
Yeah.
lot to be built.
But they have the collaboration of Paradigm, would be the argument there.
For sure. And I think that Tempo is an interesting experiment, definitely more well staffed than maybe some of the previous efforts we've seen, but there aren't going to be like 10 Tempos also. Like, I think
Yeah.
the reality is that for most companies that want to use crypto for payment rails to take advantage of decentralized tech, they're much better off integrating with a existing system that has already achieved a network effect from many users and a
Yeah.
lot of apps and a lot of integrations.
Yeah. And from a go-to-market perspective, how do you, if you could only prioritize like one customer, would it be the crypto native folks, like bringing, I don't know, yeah, crypto native applications on, or would it be, Tempo's going after Klarna and maybe Arbitrum's going after Robinhood? Like, how do you think about that strategy? It's very, because I've never seen someone do both well, right?
Mm. Why do you, let me turn that back on you a little bit. Like, why do you think the teams are not able to tackle both at the same time?
I just haven't seen anyone do it very well. I think that there's who your core customer is ends up filtering down into the entire organization. And it actually impacts everything. It impacts not only like your branding, but also like who you hire. Do you hire someone from Uber, or do you go hire someone who's worked at Aave, right? Those are two very different people. So, if you look at it, so that's one reason, is because it's not only just like, I don't know, your marketing and how you talk about yourself, but it trickles down to every decision you make at the company. Um, the other thing is, I think people who went after enterprises historically, they did it in a way that drove more marketing than actually adoption. And I think that there was a lot of probably under the table payments that happened, which people in crypto knew about. So then it gives you a bad rap. And it actually it was like it wasn't only neutral, it was like negative marketing for that brand. And so it really turned crypto native people away from those folks. I guess you could say there's probably, yeah. So that's what I think.
Yeah, I agree with what you said. I think that at the end of the day, nothing that the Monad Foundation team does should be for the purposes of an empty headline. We've really tried to take that approach. I mean that sincerely. We've tried to take that approach in everything we've done up to now. There's no, like when we talk about the technology, when we talk about decentralization, when we talk about finality, like these are provable things. We have open source code. People can go look at comonads.com and check out the validator dashboard and see the global set of validators. And this will continue to scale. And I think similarly, I think that empty headlines are, like you said, not very valuable in the long run. Maybe there's a short term spike in interest, but if there's one thing that's true, it's that the crypto space has become increasingly fast about moving on from such headlines and removing the incentive for teams to actually do that, which I think is healthy. So at the end of the day, it's going to be about identifying real adoption that does actually benefit from where the value to the counterparty is from the efficiencies from using the technology rather than just from like a one-time grant that constitutes all or maybe even like more than 100% of the value.
Yeah. Yeah. What are your, if everything goes well, Keone, what does 2026 look like?
I think it's more of a grit and grind sort of thing for us. I don't assume instant success. I think the Monad ecosystem has a lot of growth needed. The teams, every Monad native builder has a ton of iteration to do on their product. These are basically their MVPs. Their first dollar of revenue and their first dollar of TVL occurred on like 2 days ago. So there's a lot of learning to do. That can't happen overnight. It happens through a lot of experimentation and a lot of candid feedback and feedback from the users. So yeah, I just think that I don't know. I just tell my team like we're not successful. Like we just launched a public mainnet, and that's something to be extremely proud of. And everyone worked really hard, but this is actually just the beginning.
Yeah.
And just really excited to be on that journey now.
Yeah. Mike and I read an end of year like review and reflection that we sent to investors, and we just started making them public as well. And I was starting to write mine this year, and I was reading back to what I wrote last year in this 2024 reflections. And I wrote, as we look back over the past 7 years, building Blockworks has been less about the big moments in time, less about the product launches, the huge hires, and the fundraise. It's been more about putting one foot in front of the other day after day after day while making sound decisions that optimize for sustainable, long-term oriented growth, which doesn't sound exciting on a podcast, but it is the job of a founder. So
I think one thing that I realized recently is that I'm a person that cares about the end goal, that cares about the ends, but also cares a lot about the means. I really enjoy the day-to-day of solving problems and figuring things out and seeing people grow, and like that. A lot of that is really what drives me, is just wanting to do things well and wanting to support a team that does things well. I think that if you're a basketball player, like you cannot be elite without really loving the game, because you have to shoot 1,000 free throws in a row on a Friday night. Like you have to do that. You have to really love it.
Yeah. Keone, that's probably a good place to end it. Congrats on everything. I know this is only the beginning for you guys, and